Ecology is the Greek word oikos, meaning house. So ecology is the study of nature's houses and the organisms that live in those houses. So, it's like the different places where life exists, the different places, especially as we get into the levels of ecological organization. As I said, so different houses and all the living organisms in those houses. So it's Greek meaning house. That's really, because if you think about so let's see. So interactions within the biosphere produces a web of independence between organisms and the environment of which they live. Organisms respond to their environment, and they can also change the environment, producing an ever-changing or dynamic biosphere. So organisms, they affect and change the environment. So relationships of organisms and the environment. So now we're going to be talking about ecology and economics. So actually I'm going to be putting so nature's houses and organisms living in those houses. Okay. So the Greek word oikos also is the root of economics. So now it's applying it to economics. I feel like that's not really focusing on what I'm trying to get at. So, let's see here. So it's talking about economics. Now, so oikos also means economics if we're talking about it from a human perspective. So economics is concerned with human houses and human interactions based on money or trade. Nature has its houses and also its interactions with other organisms, same organisms, and also the environment. And human interactions are based on money and trade, and then nature's houses are based on energy and nutrients, which involves us as well. So energy and nutrients is what we're going to be talking about, because organisms exchange those things. So we're going to talk about how energy and matter move from one organism to the next, and from organisms to the environment. So human economics and ecology are linked. So humans live within the biosphere and depend on ecological processes to provide such essentials as food and drinkable water that can be bought and sold or traded. So humans rely on the living processes of the biosphere, because without those things we wouldn't have, all the things that we have, that can provide food and drinkable water without without the organisms' interactions and all those kind of things with each other in the environment. Okay, so that's really That's the tie-in with that. So, most definitely. So that's what, ecology is really about. So now that you know that, we're going to be moving on to the ecological methods. So, let's see here. So, okay. So the question is, what methods are used in ecological studies? So, I'm going to be writing these down. So it says the main idea is regardless of the tools, modern ecologists use three methods in their work, which are observation, experimentation, and modeling. Each of these relies on scientific methodology or guide inquiry. So I'm going to be writing down just for short eco methods. So one of which is observation. Observation. So observation. So ecology. Ecology, study of eco. So observation. So, how the different branches of science are unique is not by the ology part, but the prefix. So observation, obviously, and this is the steps of the scientific method that you were looking at when you were in your schooling. That's really what you need to understand before you get into all science. That's kind of the oriental things. So ecologists, so people that study ecology, use observation. Now, who can tell me what observation is? Somebody. Okay. Good. So observation is, yes, using the senses, observing, seeing, tasting, smelling, hearing, touching, sensing, and all those kind of things. Now, one of the things that they talked about in the the Oriental thing that you were at is what qualitative data and quantitative data. Like qualitative data goes off of quantity in terms of numbers or an amount of something, and measurements and all those kind of things. Qualitative data goes off of the quality of something. Quantitative quantity. You get right. So qualitative goes with observational things like how thick grass is, or what is the color of grass, or what is the say the length. I don't know. Yeah, but just anything having to do with the senses is what that is. So it says observation is the very, very first step in asking ecological questions. So some observational questions are: which species live here? How many individuals of each species are there? We'll talk about populations a little bit later. Other observations are more complex. So how does an animal protect their young from predators? These types of questions may form the first step in designing experiments and models. So, experimentation, hypothesis is a scientific guess based on research and data, which can turn into an experiment. So, all of the elements of that and all the terms for that. So, experiments can be used to test hypotheses. An example would be setting up an artificial environment in a greenhouse or laboratory, seeing how growing plants react to different conditions of temperature, lighting, or carbon concentration. So remember the independent, dependent variables, the independent I control, or what you change during the experiment. The dependent variables depend upon the independent variables, and that's kind of the outcome of those independent variables. And also the control group is the group that you're not using any independent variables towards, that's being compared to the the experiment. So the experimentation is actual testing of a hypothesis and all that kind of thing, and then modeling. Um, Basically for that is over a very, very large area with like a lot of things going on. There's models to help, to be able to see that, to be able to, look at that to better understand it in a small scale environment or biome or biosphere, whatever those things. So long periods of time, long distances, they use a model to help explain that. So to make sense of phenomenons. So it says many ecological events, such as effects on global warming on ecosystems, occur over long periods of time and over such long distances that are difficult to study directly. Ecologists make models to help understand the phenomenon. Many ecological models consist of mathematical formulas based on data collections through observation and experimentation. In the observing, the seeing of things and asking questions and researching, then the experimentation, which is the testing of hypotheses to get the modeling. So, further observations and experimentations can be used to test predictions on how those models turn out later in turn. So, that's really kind of just the basics things, but I think that there is going to be more explaining to do when it comes time for what we're going to be getting into next. But I really didn't have a whole lot to explain for that. So that's really all for today, everybody. Thank you very, very much. I will see you in a couple days' time to continue this.